Capture the passion.
Hey everybody, welcome to Capture the Passion. I'm Alex DeJean, and with me is Eric Sabirio. In this episode, we're talking about special education, and I have a very special guest. See what I did there, audience? I made it funny. We have a special guest today. Her name is Ruth Ellis. She is the Director of Special Education and Student Support Services, or Student Support Initiatives, for the Center for Collaborative Education and the Community Partnership for Teachers Pipeline. Ruth, do you mind introducing yourself to the audience and letting them know who you are?
Not at all. Thank you, Alex, and I appreciate being here today. Again, as Alex said, my name is Ruth Ellis. I'm the Director of Special Education and Student Support Initiatives for the Community Partnerships for Teacher Pipeline, otherwise known as CPTP, and I work with the Center for Collaborative Education. They're a education nonprofit that's based in Boston, and the CPTP program, as you all already may know, is located here in the greater Los Angeles area.
So, yeah.
A little bit about my background. I have been in education for a very long time, and I started out as a transplant from back east and got a teaching job almost a year within the year that I moved out here. So I definitely understand the whole process of coming into teaching, kind of new and having mentors. And I've done working in general education in the urban areas, as well as I've done student support in administrative capacities for the Los Angeles Unified School District, and I've also taught in a more suburban area, both general education and special education.
Wow, welcome to the show, Ruth. What part
Thank
you said you are a transplant from back east? Where exactly?
I am from the Boston area, about a half hour north of Boston. I'm born and raised in Boston, and then moved out here when I graduated college.
By the way, those of you...
Still a Boston sports fan all the way.
Oh, no, I'm cringing. I'm cringing right now, Ruth.
Breathe Red Sox.
I'm cringing right now. I'm from New York, and I'm a Yankees fan.
Oh.
And they're playing each other right now, as we speak.
Oh, you're in New York right now?
No, I said they're playing each other right now.
Oh, are they? That's right. Yeah, opening day in Yankee Stadium or
Yeah,
what?
I believe it is in Yankee Stadium, and it's 3-3, just so. Yeah. No. Oh, I had so much hope for you, Ruth.
I'm actually sitting in my office, which is, my husband calls it the shrine to the Red Sox. So.
Oh, my.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I should be talking to you.
All right, so that's the show. We're going to go ahead and move on to next week's topic. So, Ruth, if you could just start off by telling us about your passion for special education. Where did it come from?
Well, that's a great question. I think special education chose me. And let me explain why I say that, Eric. Initially when I was in college, I was a human development and therapeutic recreation major, and I worked in settings. I've always loved working with children. I was a camp counselor. I did work in the early childhood education setting in daycare centers and preschools. And I was sort of interested in working in a therapeutic setting and meeting the needs of children who weren't getting everything they needed, whether it was in a hospital setting or a therapeutic school setting. And so I did that for several years while I was going through college, and also maybe even a little bit beyond that. And when I moved out to California, I got a job actually in the early childhood sector, in early childhood education, and sort of went more the general education route because LA Unified was recruiting so many teachers at the time back in the mid-'80s, and got a job in Inglewood, California, which happened to be a Los Angeles Unified School, and there was a lot of different needs at that school, and I really enjoyed the experience of working with students with diverse needs, whether they could access the general education curriculum or not. We would have students coming who couldn't read at, age 9, and so I always seemed to gravitate towards them. So I always say that I think special education and student support chose me. And then fast forward almost 10 years later, after my work in that school and in other areas, I ended up got married, and my husband and I, we had a son with special needs. Our son has Down syndrome, and it just sort of, reignited or fueled the fire around understanding inclusivity and universal design for learning, and that any child or any person should have the supports they need to access the real world in an inclusive manner.
You talked about your passion sort of for universal design for learning. I think it's fantastic because similar to you, I also have worked in special education. I used to be an instructional assistant working with special education students. Working with students with special needs, what sort of tricks or concepts have you learned about education?
I love that question because when we think about special education, I want to emphasize that special education is a service, not a place. And there's a lot that happens before a student is identified as an eligible student for an IEP. So that's where the student support comes in. And all teachers are administering and administering student support. In other words, when a teacher gives a student a shorter assignment to complete because that student might be a little wiggly or have a short attention span, that's universal design. Universal design and access to the general education curriculum happens at all levels for general education teachers and then special education teachers.
CaPture the passion.